police in the morning.
Welcome to the first edition of B-Movie Chat with Corey and Paul. With us today, we are doing a black and white versus color movie chat with Dave Dubose. The evolution of technology has led to advancements in every aspect of society. This includes film and entertainment. This means and style of storytelling has changed dramatically over the years, as expectations and taste are crafted by the times. When film technology was more primitive, movies required more theatrical performances from actors. That still largely resembled the plays and operas of the past. This is in contrast to the realistic style of acting we see in modern-day films. In earlier times, film creators were forced to be creative in order to make up for restrictions. For example, Alfred Hitchcock used chocolate syrup to imitate blood during the now infamous shower scene in the movie Psycho. As film became more readily available in color, some filmmakers chose to stay with black and white film, partly for financial reasons, but others for a stylistic choice. It's hard to argue that visually, even most low-budget movies are superior to the old black and white films. However, quality of technology is no replacement for quality of writing and vision, so it's inappropriate to say that these films are better by virtue of their aesthetics. It's not uncommon to see movies with huge budgets showing off the latest in special effects. However, these films are very rarely as memorable as the classic black and white films of the 1940s. As color films became the norm, innovative and performance became less important, as the focus of films gravitated towards better special effects. With every gain, there's inevitably a loss. So on this week's B-Movie Chat, we are here to discuss the positive and negative sides of both color and black and white film. Joining us for this conversation is horror correspondent Dave Dubose.
What's up, guys?
Not much. How's it going?
Doing well. How are you?
Not bad at all. So, color versus black and white.
Yes.
So we know
it's
that
a very broad spectrum.
pretty much. Yeah. Figure. So we know, Dave, you're a pretty big enthusiastic of classics. Why don't you start us off? What do you think are some of the advantages of black and white films?
Okay, so, dialing it back, thinking about the history of films, kind of like Corey was talking about. They started creating films 1890s. They start kicking off, panning shots and special effects, getting up to the short silent films, then into the full-length silent films, then 1927 coming out with audio, and then just really dialing it together and creating some of my all-time favorite classic horror films. And actually, I had some in mind that hopefully we can talk about soon. I like to say that the black and white movies are far more superior than the colorized ones.
I'm not so sure. There's a real midline here with color and black and white. The times do change, and styles in movies change. Technology changes, but I think that black and white versus color, you really have to look at the time period of that movie to decide whether it's a better choice to have it in black and white or color.
Yeah, I guess better is kind of a subjective term, but I think as times change, our way of looking at movies has also changed. Because we've all kind of grown up with color films, so we have an idea of how films are supposed to go. Like, it's supposed to be how people are supposed to act, like more realistic, as opposed to back in the day when it was more theatrical, kind of like the old operas and things like that. So I think it's a lot of personal preference, but I do think that there is, I think, like Corey said earlier, with creativity, I do think there is a need to be more creative with black and white films. So, but then again, with technology advancing, there's always needing to be creative. So I think that story has definitely gotten slightly worse as the years have gone on, and I think color actually is to blame for that, just because people rely now more on realistic kind of looking scenes rather than performance and story, because
I don't think it's color so much as special effects.
Yeah.
Because they want the special effects to outweigh everything. Go see this for the special effects. One movie always comes to mind when we talk about special effects, and that's James Cameron's Avatar. Now, James Cameron, master of sequels, but on standalone movies, I'm sorry, man, it's just not good enough. All you did was rehash fucking Romeo and Juliet for the umpteenth thousandth time that I've seen it
Made
in a
Smurfs
terrible
and Spinners.
alien way. But I digress. We're talking about color versus black and white, not,
Your hatred of James
I-
Cameron.
of special effects.
I don't know, Corey. I think you're right there with it too, because when I dial down thinking about the difference between the black and white horror movies and the colorized horror movies, when I think about the colorized horror movies, the entry level colorized horror movies are still fantastic. A lot of stuff they did, throughout the 60s with Vincent Price and the Hammer films, I really do love, and just as much as the black and white, but definitely there was more black and white horror movies than there was colorized movies. And I place blame, just like you mentioned. I think what it is it's a lot of the special effects. I can't stand to watch a horror movie that relies so much on CGI when all the acting is bad. Like, I would rather not even see the death scene than see a bad death scene.
Well, not even horror movies. Live Free or Die Hard, the fourth installment of the Die Hard series. There's a PG-13 and an unrated version of it. The PG-13 version has virtually no foul language and no blood. The unrated version, why it's unrated is they throw in what the fuck do we call these? Expletives.
Yeah.
They throw in expletives whenever, like, John McClane is off screen and he's talking, and they put a ton of CGI blood into the movie. And it's one of those things where I'm like, the PG-13 version of this movie is superior to the unrated version because all you did was add in things after the fact that weren't necessary.
Sounds like a scam to get you to buy the unrated version.
Well, luckily the PG-13 version came with the unrated version, so... But yeah, I think movies rely too heavily on special effects, and, when they were black and white, special effects had to be a lot more imaginative. Like we said, the chocolate sauce for the shower scene. Or, if you watch the original Night of the Living Dead, there's a zombie underneath a tree chewing on, like, a hunk of cow leg or something. But because of the black and white aspect, it's harder to tell what it is, and your mind has to compensate for that and fill in those blanks and colorize it yourself if you want to, and it just leads to a lot more processes in the brain and a lot more involvement from you in the film.
I think that, like, when you have black and white films, you can definitely, like, if somebody's hiding in these shadows in a noir kind of film, it definitely helps to shape that a bit better than in color, at least in certain films.
Yeah, and it's crazy because, we keep, anytime we talk about black and white movies, some of the same movies always pop up, and kind of one of the milestone films, besides Night of the Living Dead was Psycho. And there's a movie I wanted to talk about for a second. Have you guys seen Dementia 13?
I have not.
I haven't either.
Okay. Paul, you said yes?
No, I haven't seen it yet.
Okay. For B-Movie Bros and everybody listening, my number one for today, black and white horror movie recommendation, Dementia 13 from 1963. It was the first Francis Ford Coppola horror movie that he directed. It's only 75 minutes, so it's not too long, and it was produced by Roger Corman. It truly defines one of the reasons I love black and white horror films, and that's just the simple word, haunting. Black and white horror films are very haunting. They dial to the point of, it's always what you see and what you don't see that can scare you. But if you take this movie and you put it in color, the effect is gone. I've watched this movie several times, standard definition, high definition, always black and white, and some of the sequences in this movie are just truly terrifying.
Sounds like an awesome movie. Definitely have to check that out.
It's one of those movies that I kind of pass up on because it's always on those, like, 12 horror movies, 15 movies to watch after midnight. 6 great, terrifying movies.
You definitely don't want to get a cheap version of it because it will be terrible. But if you can track down, I know iTunes has it in HD for $8.
I had that problem when I first watched Nosferatu.
Yes.
I watched the copy that was on Netflix at the time, and this was 4 or 5 years ago. And, like, I talked to one of my friends who was a big horror buff from the 30s and 40s, and I was like, is it supposed to be sepia tone and, like, extremely grainy and extremely dark, and he's like, no. He said, you must have watched a bad print because it's a very clear movie. There's a lot of stuff going on. And I was just very disappointed because it was a movie I very much looked forward to seeing. And then when I saw it, I was like, this is terrible. And I mean, I love, the original Dracula, Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. There's great classic horror movies from that era. And I was just really taken aback by the bad copy of that. And that's, I think, one thing that you have to take into consideration when you see older movies and black and white films is, a lot of these pressings and printings that are the public domain ones are really shitty copies of the film. I know a lot of people don't want to pay the money for something, but it's one of those things. It's actually better to pay the money for a good copy, or else you're gonna get what you pay for.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think a lot of people who don't traditionally watch a lot of black and white movies of any genre are probably because what they've seen of it was such bad quality that that's the impact it left on them. And that's why, Nosferatu is a fantastic movie, and it's almost $35 on Blu-ray to see the restored version, but it's truly worth it. The shadow work in that movie is amazing.
You guys ever seen the movie, what's it called, How to Make a Monster?
Oh, yeah, with Clea Duvall.
Yeah, it's like mostly in black and white, and then at the end they randomly decide to make it color. It just reminds me of that. It's like,
that movie was in black and white for most of the thing?
yeah, at least the version I saw.
Is that's the movie where they're like a video game company making a
I'm
monster game
thinking
or
of the movie with the makeup artist whose company gets taken over, and he hypnotizes people. He makes his monsters to kill the
These are
studio.
two different movies called How to Make a Monster.
Oh wow, I didn't know there was more.
Because the one I'm thinking of does not take place in black and white.
Oh well, this is actually a pretty good movie. I watch it around Halloween almost every year.
Oh yeah,
but,
mine was a piece of shit.
Yeah, but it's real weird because like the last scene for no real reason is in color, whereas the rest of it's in black and white, and not only is it confusing, but you're like, yeah, this is a lot better in black and white. Like, they should have just left it there. It was like they didn't have the budget back then to make it fully in color, so you're like, well, at the last scene, that's going to be the great conclusion of it. Everyone's going to love it. It's like, no, that was really dumb. But yeah,
it's interesting. Some movies take stylistic choices like that. One that I can think of, although it's not a black and white movie, is Leslie Vernon, Behind the Mask: The Rise of Leslie Vernon. Have you ever seen that one?
Yes.
The first half hour, 45 minutes of the movie is done in a documentary style, and then the latter half of the movie they switch from the documentary to a traditional slasher film. And I think it's a great choice for that movie, to do that, to bring us these two different styles to tell this story. To really give us the background on everything, and then to throw us right into the actual happenings at the end. I thought it was cool. I'm sure there are more movies that make that jump between either one style to another style, or one genre to another, or black and white to color, or vice versa. It works in some instances, and I think it really comes down to the writing of the film.
Yeah, I think it depends on like what kind of environment you're using, because certain movies are great as black and white, like we said, like all the old classics, Citizen Kane, like that would have, as a color movie, I'm pretty sure they deliberately chose to make that one black and white, but it wouldn't have been nearly as impactful if it was if it had been in color, because it would have really contracted with the time period, I think.
Well, that's like take Schindler's List.
Yeah,
I mean, it was a very bleak movie. It was a very dark movie. So they took the color out of it. It's a very draining experience. What those people went through and what he's portraying. So the color is drained out of it. Is how I look at it. And it really, I think if it was in color, it wouldn't have the same impact.
Definitely not. Because you look at like old photographs of that time period, and they're all obviously in black and white. So seeing things in color, well, it can work with certain films. I think that it loses some of the feeling to it when it becomes color. And black and white's just a better choice in certain situations.
but then you take a look. Let's compare two movies that have similar ideas here, just for shits and giggles. Let's take Plan 9 from Outer Space. That was in black and white, right?
Yes, it
Yeah.
was.
And let's take Independence Day. Okay, so Independence Day. If that movie was in black and white, I don't. I mean, you might not be able to see Will Smith in it. But
it would have been a little difficult.
It would have been a
to
little
make out certain
different.
details.
Jeff Goldblum would have kind of just melded in with the background, and I don't know. You just wouldn't have gotten the effect from the explosions and everything else. Now take Plan 9 from Outer Space, which is already a shit-tacular fuck space of a show, and if you would make that in color, which I think there are color versions available of it.
Doesn't make it any better.
I think it would make it even worse.
Yeah.
I mean, because there's just that low budget charm
at least
in
at
the
least it
black
has
and
some
white.
charm for being a black and white film.
And like, if you would put color to that, like, I don't think it would even be watchable anymore. Like the black and white, it's campy, it's enjoyably bad at times. But to add color to that, you've already got the strings and all the other shit that you can see, and to just make anything else more obvious in it just ruins the whole thing altogether.
I could see that.
Yeah, another thing that's definitely with that is it's crazy to go back and watch some classic movies featuring some of your favorite classic actors and actresses of any genre and watch them transition into color films. And some of them you're looking like, oh man, I liked you better when you were in black and white.
Well, that's like a lot of actresses and actors when you went from silent films to the talkies. They weren't working anymore because they had horrible voices, and that was one of the big draws. You needed a voice that would be a great screen presence, and if you didn't have that voice, they didn't want you anymore. Same thing when they transitioned from black and white to color, the whole makeup that went into movies and stuff had to change because you had this garish caked on I forget, I think it was like a plastic base makeup, but it was like caked on, and it was like makeup that you use in ballets and theater to show up on camera in black and white, and the same kind of makeup when used under the intense lighting that they had to use to film in color would melt right off of the actors and actresses' faces, would make them look like monsters, even done like regular. It was not natural color tones. And so it had, the whole industry had to be revamped. And even today, to do a black and white movie, you can't use the same kind of makeup for black and white as you do for color. It's just, they're two different worlds.
Yeah, you put some of those black and white actors and actresses into the colorized features, and everybody looks like a ghost.
Pretty
Or
much.
zombie.
Yeah, I guess like with a lot of it, it's a style thing. I think it depends on the director and just what kind of film they're trying to make. Like, it wasn't black and white, but there's a weird film I watched a few years ago called Dogville. It was made by director Lars von Trier, so it's a weird art film. But there are no buildings in the entire... It takes place in this little town, and there are no buildings. They're just outlines of where the building is. And it kind of works for it. It almost looks like a board game, but it's his kind of style. And once you kind of accept that it's an unusual style, or like know where they're going with it, it kind of works, but it's like, it's still kind of bizarre. So I think it's kind of that way with black and white films. It's like, if the director kind of has a vision of what they want and they're talented enough to do it, they can pull it off. But if they're just kind of like, if they're picking like color over black and white when it really should be a black and white film, or vice versa, if it's black and white and they really should be color, I think that it'll be a disaster. But I really think it depends on how they wrote it and what kind of vision they really have for it.
Yeah, it always comes down to style, doesn't it?
I think a wonderful example that we can take a look at here for color versus black and white is actually what we're doing this month is Kaiju Month. Giant fucking monsters beating the shit out of each other. And Godzilla. Because Godzilla first came out in the 1950s in black and white. And the black and white Godzilla movie, at least the original Japanese version, is a very compelling and telling story. And then you look at Godzilla when he transitions to color, because in black and white, that big rubber fuck lizard suit looks great. It is cheesy a little bit, but it works, and it has a great effect. And then you look at Godzilla when he transitions to color, and he looks horrible. And they had to change the entire tone. It went from being this serious, like, this is what happens due to nuclear radiation. It had a lot of social commentary within the film for the time period. Then you go to his color version, which is, me, Godzilla, fight other monsters.
Which are fun, though.
They're fun, but I think it also shows that, tonnage of the movie, the same movie you can make in black and white, you can't make in color if it's done properly.
But I also think that's part of the time period. Like, the story of Godzilla, while it worked back then, partly because we've had Godzilla, it really doesn't work now. It's kind of like how they'll change certain stories from that they used to have back in the day to fit a more modern audience. So I don't think Godzilla's really transitioned well for as the times changed. It's also happened to coincide with color.
Which also is why we've seen, 37 different backstories for Batman.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say you definitely got it right, because anytime Godzilla ties up with Matthew Broderick, it is no good.
That's a lot of fish.
Such a terrible movie.
I think the only thing that saved that movie was the fact that Hank Azaria was in it.
Oh no, what's his name? Leon the Professional was in that movie. I can't remember the actor's name, but he's a great actor. And he does a hilariously bad Elvis impersonation to get through the military base, and it just cracks me up every time. My wife loves Matthew Broderick, so if Matthew Broderick's in the movie, there's a chance that I've seen it. Even though she has never seen the Producers.
The remake of the Producers.
She refuses to watch it because Will Ferrell is in it.
Well, the original Producers is really good. I never saw the.
Oh yeah, with Zero Mostel and Gene Wilder. It is a fantastic movie.
Yeah. Another black and white film that actually that's another film I don't think would have worked in color.
Oh, was it in black and white?
I'm pretty sure it was.
I think it was in color.
Was it? Oh, I'm thinking of, because I thought of Gene Wilder, I'm thinking of Young Frankenstein.
Okay. Oh, Jean Reno is the actor I'm thinking of. Jean Reno. Yeah, Young Frankenstein was in black and white, which I guess works for the movie.
That was a style choice.
I personally don't like Young Frankenstein.
I love that film.
I'm a fan of most every other Mel Brooks movie. Actually, no, I don't like the Life of History of the World Part 1.
Was that a Monty Python movie?
No.
Was it?
No, it's Mel Brooks.
Okay.
But the Producers, is that black and white? Let's find out.
Did you guys see A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night?
I have not. That is on my list to watch.
I've seen that one. I was actually just thinking about that.
Did you like it, Paul?
I thought it was pretty good. It kind of dragged on in parts, and there were parts where the other characters is kind of like that one guy who just kind of gets drunk and makes a fool of himself. Like, okay, I don't see what the point of this is, but overall, I thought it was pretty well done.
Yeah, that movie came highly recommended to me because it was in black and white, and I built myself up on it too much. And when I watched it, I was very passive. I was like, oh, okay. Definitely original, but I would probably never watch this movie again. So, Corey, I'll be curious to see what you think.
Yeah, that was my reaction because my one friend, he kept telling me, oh, this is a great movie. You got to watch it. And I'm like, it's okay. I mean, it's not the best movie I've ever seen.
I think that's part of my problem with Young Frankenstein. Is it's one of those movies I had a lot of people telling me, oh, this is a great movie. I love this movie. It's one of my favorites. And then I watched it, and I'm like, okay. I don't know. It's one of those, like, the first time I watched it, I chuckled at things. And then the next time I watched it, I was just like, it's not funny this time.
Okay, so just in case I built you up too much for Dementia 13, I will tell you it's terrible and you will hate it.
Oh, I actually completely forgot that we talked about that at this point. I'm sure I have it on one of my sets. I've got 3 or 4 sets of a bunch of movies.
I couldn't remember the numbers, so I was just going to type Dementia and start typing in numbers till finally a film came up.
Dementia might get you a lot of results, Paul.
Yeah. It's like, oh.
Yeah, the cool thing about that movie, though, it was actually written to be a knockoff of Psycho because Psycho had did so well that they actually wanted a copy of Psycho in some form or fashion, and Dementia 13 was born, and it does pretty good. It got a 65% rating on Rotten Tomatoes in favor.
That's pretty fresh. It's
Yeah.
a lot fresher than stuff that we watch normally.
I don't always trust Rotten Tomatoes. Sometimes they'll give great reviews to movies that I hate, and other times they'll give terrible reviews to movies I like.
Like
so-
Adam Sandler movies.
Oh, God. Well, those tend to be
Oh,
really
dude.
bad, and I'm like, okay, I agree with that, because...
It was funny in the mid-'90s, but then he continued to be the same character for the next 30 years.
See, I'm not even sure if it was funny, or I was like... Or it was because I was 8, like, that it was funny. Like, I can't tell if there's funny...
I will
films
never
or-
not laugh at the tit-headed demon in Little Nicky.
I've actually never seen Little Nicky. So.
I'm surprised because you're from the New York area.
Yeah.
Little Nicky was the first DVD I ever bought.
Popeye's
Like,
Chicken
I didn't even
is-
have a DVD player.
Popeye's Chicken is not fucking awesome, by the way. Their biscuits are amazing, but the chicken,
They're expensive.
I have to go with KFC. I'm sorry.
I do like KFC. I've been to Popeyes like once, I think, in my entire life.
And, in Cleveland, they have Mr. Chicken, which I've not tried yet. My wife is from the Cleveland area, and every time we go out there, I'm like, I'm gonna eat Mr. Chicken, but then I end up going to the mountain pie place and getting a mountain pie for lunch.
You telling me they don't have like a poultry geist up there?
No, there is no American Chicken Bunker up here, unfortunately.
No Los Polos Hermanos.
No anal seepage up there. Okay.
Well, that you have to go to the red light district for that. You have to pay extra.
Hey, okay. So since you said red, I want to throw something out there. I back up black and white movies fully. I love classic movies. But when color came around, there is somebody that I think of every time when I think of somebody who uses color very well, especially the color red. You know who I'm talking about?
Not really.
Dario Argento.
Oh, okay. Cat o' Nine Tails.
Oh, yeah, but Suspiria alone, the way he uses red
Oh
in
my
that
God, it's-
haunting place.
I haven't seen Suspiria since I was like 17 years old. I need to go home and watch that tonight.
Yeah, that's an awesome. It's not my favorite Dario movie, but it's definitely on the list.
You know, it's amazing how many movies I've forgotten that I've seen in my lifetime, and how many I have. And yeah, I mean, I've definitely seen a few Dario Argento movies because it was a name that kept coming up when I was looking up movies when I was in high school.
Oh, yeah, man, he's the Italian Alfred Hitchcock.
Him, Lucio Fulci, I have a lot of movies of. I think I have a couple Bruno Mattei movies. I have a lot of George Romero. Since I'm from Pittsburgh and George Romero, started in Pittsburgh, I have a lot of his stuff.
Yeah, when you guys, if you ever want to do a Dario cast, you need to let me know.
That,
Yeah,
that
that'd
would
be
be a
good for a
great
month, yeah.
a great month to do. Would be a Dario Argento month.
We do that, and now that I
So-
think about it, we do a black and white month at some point.
Oh, I'm in.
Yeah, definitely.
Are we out of ideas
Trying to
right now?
think, like, what else do we talk about with black and white? Well, I think we all kind of agree. Like,
What is
depends
Paul?
on
What
the
is
movie.
what is your favorite black and white movie?
My favorite black and white movie would be. I have to think about this for a second. Recently, you posted in your you've got this VHS battles thing that you post like different VHS tapes and which one's the best. You had the movie Freaks Up. I really like that film, but I don't think that one's.
That is an awesome 66-minute movie, isn't it?
Yeah, I really like that.
That was banned for 80 years.
I can't believe that ruined his career though. That's ridiculous.
It is such a fantastic movie.
It is. I really liked it, but I'm not sure. Does that even count as a horror movie? Out of curiosity. 'Cause,
Yes,
like,
it does.
I mean, at the end it does. But most of it's like a slice of life kind of thing. Like,
But it's a build up. It's a
Yeah.
slow. It's one of those slow burn kind of movies.
Yeah, definitely when you get towards the climatic scene at the end No spoiler for me, but basically when you have the scene where it's like raining and the freaks are just crawling at you, that was creepy.
That was.
It was well done.
Still, the best part of that movie is the guy with no arms or legs who rolls his own cigarettes. That guy's my
and
hero.
crawls through the mud with a knife in his mouth.
That guy was badass. Like,
Yeah, I don't smoke, but I even tried that. I don't know how he does it.
yeah.
I have to say that it's a movie we haven't touched upon, and actually it would be a good one to talk about with color versus black and white. The Last Man on Earth, starring Vincent Price, is probably my favorite black and white movie. It is cheesy, but it's creepy. It's campy, but it's very intellectual at the same time.
I will take Vincent Price over Will Smith any day.
And
Most definitely.
I hate the remake of Last Man on Earth, especially since I've read the book, I've seen both versions of the movie, and the biggest problem I have with the Will Smith version is such that the tiniest little thing at the end of the movie, he pulls out an M67 hand grenade from his desk, and he pulls the pin. Spoiler alert, he fucking dies. If you didn't see the movie in the last 12 years, then, it's your own fault. Not really, because it's not worth seeing. But he pulls the pin, and the effect that happens is an incendiary grenade, where the M67 is a high explosive grenade. That just, for some reason, it just bugs the shit out of me that they did that. I'm kind of a weapons fanatic when it comes to certain things, and that really bugged me forever. It still bugs me now.
My favorite part of that movie was how they missed the entire point of it at the very end and just made them blow everyone up, which it had no point of building up. Oh, they're building traps, so they're actually intelligent. Let's not do anything with this. Like, what a dumb movie. Like,
I would say, listening to a lot of your podcasts, that I Am Legend would probably have so much wrong with the technical difficulties, it's not even funny.
oh, definitely.
We've had some movies like that it's hard to narrow it down to 3, and then to come up with 3 things that are good about the movie. Honestly, Last Man on Earth, it ends. That's a positive note. After 2.5 hours, I can't think of anything else.
Actually, my favorite black and white film, I can't believe I didn't realize this until just now. My favorite black and white film of all time is Casablanca. I absolutely love that movie.
I've never seen it.
It's phenomenal.
What? Oh, Corey, come on, dude.
It's
This is
like-
one
I've
of the
never seen
greatest
that. I've
Humphrey
never seen
Bogart
Gone
movies.
with the Wind. The last time I saw
I've seen Casablanca like 50 times.
Wizard of Oz, I was probably in diapers.
Wizard of Oz, there's one that's black and white and color.
And color.
and
You're
for
right.
very good reasons. And it's one of those things where it really works how it changes the tone between the black and white time frame, the color time frame, and then at the end back to the black and white time frame.
Would you ever see like the really, really old Wizard of Oz? It's all completely in black and white. It's really weird.
Oh yeah, the
like-
the silent one.
Yeah, where like the lion, I think, is just some guy who at some point dresses as a lion. It was really weird. I found that on TV one day, and I couldn't believe it was real just because of how absurd it was.
Wasn't that one of the Edison films?
I have no idea. I
No,
wasn't even sure till now if it was a dream or not.
What is the first horror movie? Anybody? First horror movie.
Oh man, I can't. It's the with the decapitation of that royal lady, right? What's her name?
Well, that was that wasn't. I think was that one of the George Méliès ones, but no, I'm thinking of the Thomas Edison's Frankenstein. Was actually
Oh, the 19. Well, see, before that, because that was like the 1910 Frankenstein. Thomas Edison did a horror film that was literally like 17 seconds long, but it was quoted as a horror film where it had like the first beheading, and people thought it was real because he mastered the editing part.
Yeah. That's another thing. Which maybe we should do another whole chat about is George Méliès, and that masterful special effects of the 20s and the
definitely.
teens.
I'm still stuck on the fact that you haven't seen Casablanca. That just blows my mind.
Yeah, I've
Classic.
a lot of those classics I have never seen.
You have an all-star cast in that movie. If you watch it all, you need to watch it because the main actor from The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari is in the movie.
Huh, I mean, I couldn't tell you their names.
His name is Conrad Veed.
Oh, okay.
But, yeah, needless to say, man, if anything else, it's not horror, so you should be able to watch it at the house.
I want to say my wife has seen it, but I don't know.
Do you
like
guys
that,
remember going to the video store and they always sold that poster that had like the top 100 movie quotes of all time?
Yeah.
I remember that.
Casablanca's on there 4 times.
Yep.
Yeah,
Just
my
looking
brother
at you,
used to
kid.
have the top 100 porn titles of all time on a poster in his bedroom.
Did it have quotes from it?
No, there were no quotes. I would like to see the top 100 porn quotes of all time. That would be interesting. There's kind
I'm
of like
here
some
to fix
crazy
your
shit
pipe.
out there.
The top 100 silent pornography films of all time. Oh god.
The only porn by the Marx Brothers.
Oh jeez. Starring Lucille Ball.
Who's going for a mustache ride?
Easy, Groucho. Marx Brothers are awesome.
Oh, definitely.
I don't think I've ever seen a Marx Brother film either.
If I was to say the gateway film for Marx Brothers is probably Night at the Opera. You have to watch that one. If you like that one, keep watching. If you think the movie's terrible, don't waste your time anymore.
What's
Let's do a Marx Brothers month.
There are so many different themed months we can do. It's
That's
not
why
even
this show
funny.
will go on forever.
Well, you can just narrow down to black and white comedies.
That's true.
I mean, there's so many, you can go silent film. You got Harold Lloyd, Buster Keaton, Charlie Chaplin, all those guys. But then when you get into, you got Three Stooges coming out of the silent films. You got Marx Brothers, Abbott and Costello, Harl and Lordy is awesome. We could go
Laurel
crazy.
and Hardy, I believe, is the proper.
That's
the
proper, but since I
uh,
get really excited about it, and just like you, my hands are flying around, it just comes out the way it comes out.
But yeah, I mean that's I think next month we're doing Lovecraft month for February. Lovecraft, love. It makes sense.
One of your favorite movies right there, right?
Reanimator.
Yep.
That's in my top 5 my rotation of top 5 movies.
One of my favorite.
That is
horror
still one of the
films-
coolest zombie movies ever.
Oh, definitely. One of my favorite horror movies is From Beyond. I love just how it managed to capture Lovecraft's like cosmic horror of like the unknown without like as a film, and I thought that was really cool. Like
Well-
it showed stuff, but you knew there was so much more like beyond it from Beyond. So
Well, that's what I've been listening to the Lovecraft stuff on an audiobook recently just to brush up on everything. And I've been listening to a lot of the shorter stories that I haven't read before, and there's so much cosmic speak and
Yes.
cosmic narrative that he does, and it's just so it paints such a beautiful picture.
a lot of his stories were only like a page or like 2-3 pages. And
Well, that's
those
like
were some of the best.
The audio stories range from there was one I think it was 2 minutes long. Then the Herbert West Reanimator, which is a 30-page story in my one book, is like 2 40-minute parts. It's an hour and a half to listen to it. And I know he's got a short novella that's like 162 pages in that same book. But yeah, it's there's just so much cosmic imagery, and he really does have a diverse vocabulary and diverse writing style, where he it goes from the cosmic imagery to the bleak depression of families with all kinds of misfortune and everything else.
Definitely.
I have a guilty thing to admit. So, talking about Lovecraft, one of my favorite stories he did was the Color Out of Space. Did you read that one?
No, that's pretty close.
That was
in listener.
adapted into a movie called Die Monster Die with Boris Karloff. The world hates it, but I love the movie. It's a lot of fun.
Nice. Definitely gonna have to check that one. We'll have to put that on our list for Lovecraft movies. Yeah, and if you want to come on the show and review it with us, that'd be cool too.
You got room for me, absolutely.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah, that helps because it was really hard to narrow down the list of movies for Lovecraft month. What we're gonna do.
I know we're doing Reanimator and From Beyond, and I guess Die Monster Die. We just have to pick a fourth one.
Did you think about, Corey, Masters of Horror Season 1, Dreams in a Witch House? That was Lovecraft.
It's been so long since I've seen the stuff. 2007 or before that, because I know I had the entire first season before going to college. So,
And it's about a guy who goes to college. Look at that.
Yeah, I think that doesn't that one star Jeffrey Combs as well?
That one doesn't, but it very well should have.
Because I just feel like Jeffrey Combs and Lovecraft go hand in hand.
You say that until you see him play Poe.
I'm gonna have to check that out.
Jeffrey Combs, to take a page out of Kevin Smith's book, when he's talking about Ben Affleck, I think Jeffrey Combs can play any role. He could play the fucking shark from Jaws, and it would be awesome. Okay. If it's bad, it's just because he just wanted to get his paycheck and get out of there.
Hey, if they make that, if they put Jeffrey Combs as the shark in Jaws and they film it in black and white, I will be there.
Jeffrey Combs is Batman.
So speaking of that, back to the black and white, and again, movies we can take a look at in black and white and in color. Frankenstein. Have you ever seen the original Frankenstein?
Of course.
Have you seen any of the remakes in color?
I have watched the variation Hammer films. Whenever what's his name? Drawing a blank. Christopher Lee and
Peter Cushing.
Peter Cushing, thank you so much. Yeah, when they did it, and there was those few Frankenstein movies, they were awesome. But Hammer films, that's a whole nother segment. When you get down to the actual Universal monsters, it should always be black and white.
And actually, one of my favorite of the Universal monsters is actually the creature from the Black Lagoon.
1954, brother, I'm right there with you.
And before I watched that, I was expecting, because everything you see of sea monsters and things like that, really is bad. And I was expecting,
you got Roger Corman's name on most of those.
I was expecting Creature from the Black Lagoon just to be this really campy, terrible, monster movie, because unlike a lot of the Universal monster movies, there's only 3 Creature from the Black Lagoon movies. It's a very small series. But the quality of it, the story in it, the acting in it is all so high quality. It is an amazing piece of art.
Have you got to see it in HD?
No, I only have the Legacy collection on DVD.
Okay, if you get the chance, it is amazing. Back when Netflix was good, they actually had a lot of those old Universal movies, as well as Vincent Price movies on there. And they had Creature from the Black Lagoon in HD, and it was so amazing that that made me go, you know what? Black and white movies in HD, I think you can see a noticeable difference in that than you can in a colorized DVD that's restored HD. I was trained from the Imaging Science Foundation because I can recalibrate the inside of a TV. So my eyes see color really well. So when I'm looking at a black and white movie and I'm looking for that grayscale and the 10 shades of gray, from dark to light, HD brings out so much stuff that you can take a movie where you have, let's say, like a funeral scene or a wedding scene. Somebody's in a black tuxedo, and then they remaster it in HD, and then all of a sudden you see pinstripes on the suit that you never saw before. I'm a huge fan of remastered black and white movies.
And that's another thing with technology. Some black and white movies remastered in HD, they may look terrible, but others, like you said, can turn out wonderful. And again, I guess that goes back to whatever print they use to do that. I know one of the movies on my list to watch is Metropolis, the complete version, where a majority of the movie is an original 35mm print, and then the lost footage was from a 16mm dupe that they found. So it's different qualities throughout, which we just watched. Silent Night, Deadly Night, which was the original version, which was done from 2 different versions of the film, and you can see, very explicitly the different qualities of film, and that's really interesting too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was another movie, the Silent Night, Deadly Night, that I used to rent on VHS all the time as a kid. It was awesome.
I can't believe it took us this long to watch that. Like, I had never seen it till a couple days ago, actually.
Hey, no apologies, man. When you're obsessed with film, it's hard to watch everything.
Oh yeah.
There's so much I haven't watched that I want to see out there, and so much that I have that I haven't seen.
As long as you guys watch Scars multiple times, we're good.
Paul,
yeah.
Paul saw it for the second time today. I saw it for the first time.
Yeah, I would have loved to get that sucker in black and white, but I didn't have control because I am a writer, not a director. But when I wrote it, it was black and white in my head.
Yeah. I enjoyed that one a lot. I was actually thinking of when we were talking about this, that movie, it kind of was almost like in black and white, even though, I mean, technically it's not, but the way that color and the white and the shadows work together, you can
And the
kind of see
outfits.
it. Yeah. You can kind of see it as almost being like semi-black and white, at least in my opinion on that one.
And maybe D did that on purpose. He knows I'm a crazy classic fanatic like that, so shout out to him because I think Scars turned out awesome.
Definitely. Yeah, I wrote a review of that on IMDb, so I hope anyone listening to this checks that out and watches that on YouTube. It's really worth the time. Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. So, trying to think of anything else to talk about with black and white films. Actually, this is going to sound weird, but Corey and I are big fans of the show. You ever see the show Trailer Park Boys?
No.
Well, it's a Canadian show about these three guys that live in a trailer park, but the original movie it was based off of was actually in black and white, and it's so just like, well, the tone of it's different, the characters are a little different, but the tone of it is just so different. Look, like watching it in black and white, like it just comes off as kind of dark and almost kind of like creepy watching it in black and white. But like, whereas the actual show is like funny and humorous. So even like you look at Kevin Smith's first film, Clerks, that compared to like his other stuff. Yeah, well, Clerks, like I know they made it in black and white because they didn't have the money to make it in color. But I can't even imagine that in color. I don't think it would be nearly.
I don't want to.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's just, it works perfectly that way.
Although I loved Clerks #2 also, though.
That was a good one. I love it.
I just think that he's a genius. So
definitely.
Oh, Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back is the best of him for me.
That's a tough tie for me, man. Honestly, between I love Clerks. I highly respect Clerks. It would be sacrilegious for me to say that Clerks 2 is better, but I will say that I enjoyed Clerks 2 so much more because the jokes were just insane. But it's right there with Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, just line after line.
Clerks for me, I liked Clerks, but I wasn't like, oh man, this is such a great film. And I think I have to attribute that to that's one of my brother's favorite films, and I've heard a lot of people talk about it. And it's good. The writing is there. The character is there. But I just think there's so much better out there. And
that was just the birth of Kevin Smith,
And Kevin Smith has kind of gone off the deep end recently with some stuff, or so I've heard.
I think his last.
Did you guys watch Tusk?
No, that's what I'm referring to. Is Tusk and the
I didn't see it yet.
Whatever the other film is that he just did that stars his and Johnny Depp's daughters.
No.
Wait, what?
Yeah, Tusk and there's 3 movies in the trilogy that Tusk is in. It's Tusk. I can't remember what the second one is, but I think it's on Netflix now. And it stars his daughter and Johnny Depp's daughter.
Yeah, the last film by Kevin Smith I watched was Red State, which halfway through kind of loses the plot and forgets what it's
I
doing.
forgot that was a Kevin Smith film.
Yeah.
I always forget that's a Kevin Smith film. Because I was going to say, I think the last film I saw of his was Jersey Girl.
Oh, God.
Oof.
And that was, I mean, when did Jersey Girl come out? Like,
was it even? I think it was like 2000, maybe 2001 or something.
I don't know.
It was definitely around the millennium.
We did do Mallrats for one of our reviews.
Yeah, Mallrats is a good time. I mean, not the best movie ever, but it's definitely one that you're flipping the stations and it's on. You can sit down and watch it wherever it's at.
I love the cable edit version of Mallrats because I've seen the real version of it. Because in the cable edit version, Jason Mewes' real voice is not heard through the entire film. And every time he speaks, it's a different dub-over actor. It is fan-fucking-tastical. I love it.
That's pretty amazing. Yeah,
It's hilarious.
That movie captures like the '90s feel a lot, like playing like old school Nintendo, like going to comic book stores and things like that.
And that's another thing. If you have a Sega Genesis, an original Sega Genesis, it says on their high definition 16-bit gaming.
It's like an
And
oxymoron.
I have actually plugged my Sega Genesis into an HD TV, and I don't know if it's me, just my hopes and dreams, but I think that 16-bit and 8-bit games actually do look better in HD. Even when it's using your audio video cables, I think it presents a better picture than standard definition televisions. I don't know. Could be me.
I'll have to test that theory.
Yeah, I still go back and play some of the vintage gaming. I'll be honest, new video games, I suck. I do not play. My wife kicks my ass on Halo, so it's not even funny anymore. So to get retribution, I'll go back and play something maybe more Mega Man style or Tetris, if possible.
Good times.
Get some sick Clay Fighter 63 and 3/4 going here on the N64.
There you go. Give me some Star Fox. Let's go. Or some GoldenEye.
I remember I had Ocarina of Time back in the day, and I was so pissed at one of the dungeons because it was way too dark. Then I realized years later, when I got like a newer version of it, it wasn't that the game was too dark, it was the fact that my TV sucked.
Turn that contrast up.
I was at a store today, and surprisingly, Ocarina of Time complete in box for the N64 was only $40.
Wow.
Yeah, the price has really dropped recently on it.
You know, Conker's Bad Fur Day is like $125.
Gunnack is it's a game for the NES, and the price has skyrocketed in the last couple years. I bought it back in 2009 for $5. I saw it at a local game store recently for $150.
Holy shit!
I mean, when you're fighting Lucky Cat in space, and one of the bosses is a giant robotic bunny on the moon, I guess it kind of is one of those ridiculous games, but I'm very glad I bought it when I did.
For those of you listening, this is the B Movie Bros and Phantom Dark Dave doing black and white versus color versus video games.
That brings up a really good point. Have you ever played a black and white video game? I know there are a lot out there. Recently it's a big stylistic choice. A lot of them are on PC. I can't think of any. Like,
It'd be kind of cool to play like a survival horror game in black and white.
I know back on the original Nintendo, it was definitely in color, but they had a game called Shadowgate. And as soon as you said, have you played a game in black and white, that triggered in my head, because that was kind of a creepy-ish game. It was like a first-person walking through a castle, and that in black and white probably would have been kind of terrifying for a child, actually. It had the like demon faces and gargoyles and stuff.
That sounds awesome.
well, that's what we've been talking about, tone changes, and one of the games I thought of immediately was Monster Party, because every time you start a stage in Monster Party, it's all happy-go-lucky with smiling trees and puppy dogs and all this nice stuff, and then you get about like 20 seconds into the stage and the sky turns blood red and all the trees turn into these deformed faces, and you've got like torso-less legs coming at you and demons, and you're fighting giant tempura shrimp and the plant from goddamn, what is that? The musical Little Shop of Horrors. You're fighting Audrey too, who's spitting bubbles at you, and a giant onion ring tries to kill you.
What the hell?
I mean, the NES had some weird games.
Oh yeah.
So on a shot scale, how much does it take to play that game?
Fucking a 12. I
This is
can't.
the whole bottle.
Oh my god, I cannot. I am so bad at that game. Actually, a whole bottle, Paul, would be 24 shots.
Yeah, true.
Because there,
24 shots?
in 750 milliliters, there are 3 cups. One cup is 8 ounces, 1 ounce to a shot, so you've got 24 shots in a bottle. So it's half a bottle.
I decided to look up.
You know what the worst thing is about classic video games that I discovered?
What's that?
You can't save your game progress.
Oh man, Yeah.
Like, you're rocking Sonic the Hedgehog, and you get really far, and just life happens, and you can't finish the game. You have to start all the way over. That sucks.
There is one particular thing I remember. I think it was when I was 7 or 8 years old. I was lucky enough to have the Super Nintendo in my room. My brothers had the Sega Genesis in their room. And I was obsessed with Mickey's Magical Quest.
I remember
and
that game.
We went on vacation for a whole week. And, I paused my SNES and I turned the TV off. And, ate dinner, went to bed, woke up, we went on vacation. We came back a week later. My house did not burn down. My NES was still running. I turned on the TV and went back to the underwater stage of Mickey's Magical Quest. My SNES ran for 7 days straight.
I did that with Metal Gear Solid, the original one, because I had a PlayStation 2, but I needed a PlayStation 1 memory card for it. So I'm just like, you know what? I'm just going to leave it on. I'm going to go to school. I'm going to do all the stuff I'm going to do and just hope that it doesn't freeze or start a fire. And yeah, luckily, I managed to beat the game, so that worked out.
And then video game hardware today, I fucking had my, Xbox 360 run for like 2 hours and then freeze on me.
Yeah, you could never do that today.
My PlayStation 3 lasts for about 4 hours before it freezes, although I probably shouldn't be sitting on my ass playing games for that long.
Yeah. I wonder if my old NES still works, actually. I'm going to have to find that.
Well, we really have gone off topic today.
Wait, you said randomness was a gift.
It
It's
is.
true.
But yeah, that's I guess we've gone through our favorite black and white movie. Did you say your favorite black and white movie, Dave?
Oh, man. When I think about favorite black and white movies, I have to separate it. But I will say just my favorite movie of all time, which so happens to be black and white, 1925, Phantom of the Opera. Hence the name Phantom Dark Dave.
Very, very nice. Another one that's on my list to see.
I saw that one.
I
so
have
many
the
years ago.
$35 Blu-ray restoration of it. And I'm telling you right now, do not watch anything less than an HD transfer of that movie. It is amazing.
I have my $35 Blu-ray remastering of John Carpenter's The Thing that's like waiting for me at home right now. That is one of my top 5 rotation movies. Like,
I think you could do an entire podcast on that movie.
oh my god, from each character to each monster to the special effects, you could analyze that movie from head to toe and talk for 3 years straight.
I picked up a term from some friends of mine, Hope and George Madden, and when I think about The Thing, that term becomes batshit crazy. That's what I think of that movie.
Yeah, it is an amazing piece of work. John Carpenter. Some of my favorite movies are John Carpenter movies. Halloween is an awesome slasher. Not my top slasher, but it's up there. John Carpenter's Vampires, wonderful. Assault on Precinct 13, the original, is so great. Most things that he touches are wonderful.
Yeah, and I'm right there with you. I look at a lot of the library that I have, and I got a section that just John Carpenter, and most of them are just great. I just, especially, we've already talked about it, but Halloween and The Thing are his gems.
I would pick John Carpenter's Vampires over Halloween.
Good?
Just not Ed Wood, James Woods, just phenomenal in that movie.
I'll have to check that
We
one out.
got a lot of perspective on this podcast.
Oh yeah, because Halloween's like one of my favorite movies. So, but
Yeah,
Halloween, it's got its niche and it's got where it needs to be, and it's that like quintessential Halloween movie. But I think what takes it away from me from Halloween is my favorite scene of the Halloween movie series is in Halloween Part 2 when Michael Myers walks through the hospital door.
yes, at the end. Yes.
He just doesn't stop. He makes contact with the door and it shatters. And it's one of those, like, it's funny, but at the same time, it's one of those holy shit moments that just happened. because every other character in the movie has tried to break that door, like, with everything they could get their hands on, and he just literally, like, walks through it.
It's badass.
Oh man, that is Michael Myers for you.
Well, I feel like Halloween 1 and 2 just put together make like one perfect movie. Like they complete
Yes.
the entire story.
Well, and that's the thing. It is one, and it's part two. It's not just Halloween 2. It's part 2. It's a continuation of the first movie. And it's one that it honestly should be one movie. And they split it up, and I can understand them splitting it up. I mean, a horror movie that's 3 hours long, most people in the 1970s probably would not have sat or wanted to go do that. You know, well, in the 70s alone, there were not that many, movies that were that long in existence. That's a more recent thing, I believe, movies that are that length.
It's actually funny. It's movies that long were like super, super old or super recent. And that whole in between, it was more like, let's just get people in there for about an hour and a half and get them out,
And hence the B movie was born, because you had the A movie, the first movie that was getting people in there, and the B movie, the second movie, the cheaper movie, the shorter movie that was thrown in there just to, for people to get their money's worth.
That's it.
The movie telling you it's time to leave.
Hey, I still get A and B movies because I go to the drive-in at least once a year.
Man, I haven't been to a drive-in in years. They shut down the one nearby us.
There's still another one nearby us.
Where's that?
Out near the airport.
I can actually tell you the last movie I saw at a drive-in, and that will tell you how long it's been. The last time I went to a drive-in, I saw Beverly Hills Cop.
I just bought that movie on Blu-ray for my father-in-law for Christmas.
There you go, another tie-in.
Along with his first Blu-ray player.
Nice.
It's a good Christmas gift. Or birthday gift.
Yeah, he was excited.
Did you get him an HDMI cable with that?
His the house they bought came with a TV that was mounted on the wall, and all the cables are run through the wall.
Okay, good.
And there was already an HDMI cable labeled for the DVD and Blu-ray player.
Of course, if you're watching Paranormal Activity, the marked ones, it's not an HDMI cable, it's a HDMI, as he pronounced it.
HDMI.
Yeah. But
what a fucking dolt. Seriously. Like that just rates up with me for people who say ATM machine. It's what the fuck do you think it stands for? ATM. At time money machine? No, it's a fucking automatic teller machine. So you're saying you go to the automatic teller machine to get money. Yep. Why do you have to say machine twice?
Well, I mean, I guess it is a money machine. So.
But the M doesn't stand for money. It stands for machine. If it was,
stand for whatever you want it to be.
Always time for money machine. Okay, always time for money machine. Not always, automatic teller machine. Another one that gets me, I was a volunteer firefighter for years, and I still am, with a fire department, and we have RIT, which is a rapid intervention team for rescuing downed firefighters and things like that. A lot of people in the service call it a RIT team. Rapid Intervention Team. Why are you saying it twice? This makes absolutely no fucking sense. Like it is already in the acronym, okay? It's shortened for a reason. You don't need to add words to the shortened term, which is the same word that's in the term. Sorry.
Just a heads up, I will be having to go to a close momentarily, so whenever you guys want to get that going. I got the notions from behind the camera here.
We're good. I
think we've kind of trailed off a little bit with Corey going on rants about.
I had to bite my tongue when I was like, "Have you guys seen ATM? By the way, that's another B horror movie," but I left it there.
It's on my list actually.
It was not terrible. I'll tell you that.
But yeah, but I think we have come to the conclusion that there are just so many factors when it comes to black and white versus color that you really have to look at the movie individually. And a lot of things work in color, a lot of things work in black and white, but not everything works for everything. And you can't take a color movie and turn it into black and white. and think that that's going to make it better or classy. And you can't take a black and white movie and throw it into color just to make it look better.
Yeah. I think it's amazing how even nowadays, with all our technology, people still sometimes go to black and white and they'll deliberately choose not to have what would be considered quote-unquote better quality for the effects and everything. I think that's kind of amazing when you think about it.
Any final words, Dave?
No, I like the way that you kind of present that there. I will still stand behind the fact that personally I like black and white horror movies better. Also, my favorite color is gray. That might have something to do with it. But yes, you definitely have to have the right person writing the script, the right person behind the camera, and the right people in front of the camera. And bringing that together, that will define either a black and white horror film or colorized film.
And there you have it. Our final thoughts and closing statements on black and white versus color. Which is the better medium? You decide. So until next time, friends, be brave, be alive, be back for more.